You're listening to the Bust-Proof Business Podcast, taking your business to the next level by taking you out of it. With our experience and proven results, we'll help you find the success that many crave, but only we can help you achieve. It's time to get started with your host, Greg Murphy.
Hey guys, it's Greg Murphy and you're listening to the Bust-Proof Business Podcast. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Now, today I had a really good conversation with my friend Jason Miles. I met him also at CES this year. He is a really great guy. Him and his wife, Cinnamon, created this nonprofit called Sewpowerful. It really is something amazing. We really get into speaking about how it's really important to work within local markets when you're doing things like donating product to other countries that might be a little bit less fortunate. And he taught me a lot, and I'm really rethinking the way that we're going to be disseminating our books for the Dollar Book Swap, because he really opened my eyes to something about how we really don't want to destroy local markets in some of these other countries. So it was really interesting. He gave me a lot to think about. And so definitely listen to this interview with Jason Miles. We had a really good time, and hopefully you guys get a lot out of it. Hey guys, it's Greg Murphy, and I'm here with my good friend Jason Miles. I met you, Jason, at CES a couple weeks ago now, and it was kind of a weird happenstance because we weren't planning on going to lunch or anything like that, and we just happened to be at the same place. I had missed your talk because I missed most talks at CES. I use it mostly for networking and meeting up with my buddies. But Sure. But so tell us about Sewpowerful. You have a great story. And we both have a heart for nonprofits, you certainly more than me. But why don't you tell us about Sewpowerful and what you're up to?
Sure. Yeah, it's a nonprofit registered in Washington State. It's a 501c3. We started it as really a kind of a way to give back through our company. Our company is called Liberty Jane Clothing. We have a marketplace online called Pixie Fair, and that's really our primary income stream and primary revenue for our business. And we wanted to figure out a way to give back. So we started funding sewing programs in Lusaka, Zambia at a location I had been to previously. And that we started that in 2010. And it's just grown and scaled over the last few years. And we do a very specific set of sewing activities there. And we call them purposeful products. They're really essential items that are designed to help kids stay in school and are used there in the local community. So I can, go deep into all those topics, but in essence, that's what we do. And we have donors and partners around the world now helping us fulfill that mission.
Yeah, let's get into it specifically, because I really think it's really important. It's not an issue that I thought was a problem, but apparently a lot of girls in some of these African countries, they don't have the feminine hygiene products that they need to be able to go to school every day.
Yep, exactly right. So the way we started was as a sewing cooperative. We trained a group of ladies. They wanted to learn to sew and sell as a way to make money. And so several years we funded that. And then we started to ask them, what could they sell locally or make locally that would make a difference? And the first thing that they came up with was uniforms, school uniforms for the children of this community school. And that was our first, what we call purposeful product. And because their first question when we started this was, well, could you take what we make and sell it in the United States? And, they were just learning to sew. And so we basically, said, well, it'd be way, way, way simpler, if you can find a customer there in your local community. And so school uniforms was the first thing. And the way they set it up was the parents make micro payments. It is a total of $14 for the child to have a school uniform. And that really changed the school incredibly. The schools there are basically, there's like three types. There's private schools, which are similar to the United States private schools. They're more upper crust type, institutions. And then there are government schools there, which are like public schools here. And then there are community schools there, which are basically not supported by anyone. And really mostly the poorer children in the slums would attend a community school. The program we work at is a community school that has 1,400 children. So the uniforms was a big piece. we did that for several years, and then we heard the statistic that girls can miss on average 6 weeks of school a year because they don't have any access to any feminine hygiene product. And so when we heard that, we asked the question, of our partner there, is that situation true in Lusaka as well? And she said, yeah, of course. The girls just stay home. And so then we said, well, is there some kind of testing score or metric that you could show us that demonstrates that they're underperforming compared to the boys? And she said, yeah, we have a 7th grade exam. It's a big test. All the kids take it so that they can go to what they call secondary school, which is high school for us. And the girls don't pass it at the same rate as boys. And so, we were like, wow, this is crazy. So we researched it a lot. We found that the best solution really is actually a reusable feminine hygiene product. It's not commonly used in the United States because it's all disposable stuff in the Western world. But in sub-Saharan Africa, really, really poor context, it is the best solution, and our seamstresses there could make it. So we came up with a program that looks like this. We ask seamstresses all around the world to sew a very nice crossbody purse pattern that we gave them a pattern for. That's what we do. We make patterns. And they download it and make us beautiful purses and send them to us. A large charity called World Vision sends them to Zambia. And then the seamstresses in Lusaka make the feminine, reusable hygiene pads. They put it all together. They include soap and underwear. And then the girls are given those purses in health class. And they're basically, they're trained, and then they take this pledge. We call it the Sewpowerful pledge, where they promise to stay in school all month if they get a purse. And we started this in 2014. We had 500 purses that we distributed. Then last year we did 1,600. And then this year our goal is 3,000, and I think we'll achieve that. October 1st is actually our priority deadline. And we see this scaling more and more each year. It's just really been remarkable.
That's amazing. And so where can people go to check that out?
Sewpowerful.org.
Sewpowerful, S-E-W.
S-E-W, yeah, powerful.org. Yeah.
That's really great. At our lunch, we talked a lot about how the difficulties with giving stuff away isn't that, because we sell books at the Dollar Book Swap for $1 a piece, and for every one that we sell, we want to give one away. And so we found that it's actually kind of hard to do that because of all the transportation costs. It's not just, hey, there's these books, come get them. There's transportation costs, and there's problems with exporting, and there's problems with duties and all kinds of messes. So, I mean, how have you guys overcome that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic issue to think through. And it seems some of these sort of ideas seem very simple at first. And then once you start to think through, well, first of all, is it a good idea locally for the people in the community, to just give away stuff? And then is it logistically feasible or even possible to do? And, we, in our context, we had the sewing activity, and there are other charitable programs that use a model. I call it the charity export model, where, people make nice items in Uganda or Kenya or, wherever, Honduras, and a kind-hearted American brings them to America and tries to sell them. And I call that charity export. And I really don't believe in that model because it's dependent on the salesperson being effective. And so our model reversed it, and we said, no, you've got kids in your community there that don't have anything, no clothing, they're not going to school, no uniforms. Let's figure out a way to get a product strategy figured out that makes a difference in your community. The other piece that I see commonly is, and this obviously ties into books more, is it is a logistical, it comes down to a set of logistical problems that are almost unsurmountable. And, very smart people can solve logistics problems, but then it gets to the question of, is it the right way to do it? Not to pick on Tom's Shoes, but, look at Tom's Shoes, right? So they have the buy one, give one model, the BOGO model, which is popularized by them. Well, if you go to some communities like the ones I go to in Zambia, there are shoe people trying to sell shoes in those communities, and then here comes truckloads of Tom's shoes, and so that is an obvious, at just first blush, any entrepreneur would know that there's trouble in paradise. When you see that kind of scenario play out for the entrepreneur locally. And so, there's a whole set of principles you have to start to think through, starting with, not destroying markets, not doing harm, not creating dependency on the part of the recipient, not creating what I call a messiah complex on the part of the giver or donor, and really thinking through a set of program variables that make it a rock solid program that really is beneficial to the local people, beneficial to the recipients they work with, the market that they're a part of, and then the donors, and how the donors interact as well. So I love this stuff. Each one of those topics is worth a whole extended conversation, but there's just a whole set of things you really have to think through.
Yeah, and I understand that, especially the shoe guys, but I understand I want to disrupt markets, but at the same time, I don't know anything about Tom's shoes, so I don't own stock. But
Sure.
But I guess my thing would be, at least somewhat, I don't want kids to not have shoes because they can't afford whatever that market price is in a particular community. Even so. And so, because when you said shoes, I thought books. Well, I'm sure there's people that are selling books in these communities as well. But at the same time, and that's even the case here in Dayton, Ohio, where I live. There's other places that are selling books, but our bookstore, all the books being $1, that's access that people just didn't have before.
Right. So it unlocks a different customer base in essence.
Yeah. So it's interesting to see how, there's always going to be effects of anything that happens ever.
Right.
So, but I totally understand what you're saying, and it is difficult to look at all the unintended consequences of everything that we do in cultures, especially in cultures that we're not super familiar with.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and in the book category, you've got a long history of the library system, right? So books are free at the library, right? You just check them out. And ebooks are, a mesmerizing thing as well. But good old traditional books, giving them away for free is, I would think, probably is a destroyer of markets. Making them available for $1 and then equipping teachers and other people who work with kids, for example. It sounds like the principles you're putting together are fantastic, So yeah, as nonprofit creators, these are the things we have to ponder and think about. Yeah,
for sure, definitely. You've made me think about it certainly in a different way. But another thing that we talked about was, getting over these, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a truckload, or I guess a container load, to get that stuff over from here to there. One way to do that, to overcome that, is to have these groups, or people on behalf of these groups, to sell books for them. They get the donations, and then you sell those books on Amazon or wherever, and then use some of the proceeds to send a truck or a container over to these countries.
Yeah, exactly. And just to mention another kind of part of my activities for nonprofit work, I'm on the board of directors of a program called Elizabeth's Library, and they focus on books in sub-Saharan Africa. And of course, that's one of the challenges they immediately come into, is the shipping costs. So the model that we've talked about with them is receiving books from their donors, and then selling the ones that are sellable on Amazon, and then using the funds to ship the books that are most appropriately used in Africa, which are oftentimes very different books, right? You got more textbook like how-to type books that are good in Africa, and then you've got more consumer-facing books that are of interest on Amazon. But that's a challenging model, because not a lot of charity people are amazing booksellers, right? And so that's obviously your forte. But a lot of library or book focused nonprofits wouldn't have that skill set. Amazon's just a giant black box to them. They have no idea,
Well, sometimes it seems like a giant black box to me too. So they recently changed. Actually, yesterday they made a change about the long-term storage fees, where it used to, you have one unit was exempt of each ASIN to the long-term storage fees, and so for book guys, we would send a lot of long tail items in.
That's a good deal.
And now they're taking that away in February. Yep. And the sky, for a lot of my buddies, the sky is falling a little bit.
Wow.
But
as of yesterday.
Wow. Yeah. So it's not taken in account. It's not taken in effect until February.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it's going to be an interesting few months as everybody sort of adjusts to the new normal.
Yeah.
But just like anything, and just like we talked about, anytime there's a change or a new actor comes in, there's going to be unforeseen consequences of that kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And, I think that back to the original question of how does all this stuff work in terms of shipping and logistics and product placement activities for good, in places like Africa. There's a real challenge. I used to work for a large nonprofit, World Vision. It's about a $2.5 billion a year operation globally. And in the U.S., a third of their income is from in-kind donations. So T-shirts and, the ubiquitous Super Bowl T-shirt from the losing team, the ones that don't get sold. Right. They go to, places like, Honduras or Mexico, et cetera, et cetera. And that the use of that type of product is really a challenging issue. And you don't want to create a scenario in which product is dumped. You want to figure out a way to use it in a meaningful way in the context of that community. And obviously, same principles apply here in the U.S.,
Sure. Oh, it definitely does. And I've seen recycling is always exciting to me because of, of what we do. We sort through all these books and the stuff that we recycle is made into toilet paper or paper towels or more books or whatever. And so the same people that sell us the material we get also they sell like tons and tons, literally, of clothing and shoes and other products to places like Africa. They have buyers that and then they open the bundles and there's a whole market to all of this exported material that these entrepreneurs are able to buy for $1 and sell for $2 like everywhere else in the world. All these things, all those the Michael Jordan jerseys and all the stuff that ends up that we just don't need anymore. I know that Jim didn't sell any T-shirts, but CES 2016, at some point, if those T-shirts were here in 10 years, they'd end up some of them end up over there as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and then so to me, this is what our charity tries to focus on is we're trying to create a sewing cooperative with a group of ladies who are awesome at creating product and that are really skilled at it because, a lot of times they have resources and if they don't have the creativity to use it effectively as an entrepreneur, they get stuck. And here's an example. You might dig this example. We were in Zambia a couple years ago. It was 2014. We were hanging out with the seamstresses and we went into their supply room, this big room, and they had bolts of fabric, but they also had these boxes, big boxes. And we were like, what's in these boxes? And they said, well, it's oversized men's clothing. And so we were like, what do you mean? So then we look in these boxes. They had pants that were sized like XXXL, which were, we have pictures of 2 people on our trip in each leg of the pants standing up. They were that big. Well, as it happens, these were donated items, right? They were donated. They were sent to Zambia. No charity could use them for any reason with local beneficiaries. There is just no one in Zambia that needed pants that were that big. And so the seamstresses got them, but they didn't know what to do with them. They didn't want to destroy them. So, my wife is really kind of a master at this, stuff. So she said, look, this is exactly what we can do. And that she noticed that a couple of the ladies had these really cool messenger bags. And she said, hey, let me see your messenger bag. She showed them how to use the messenger bag to make a pattern. and without destroying it, and then chop up the pants and start making messenger bags for boys at the school. And, once they had the confidence to chop up, the clothing, and the idea of what to do with it, they were, the next day, boom, they had knocked out, dozens and dozens. And so there's examples like that where it doesn't really come down to a lack of supply of a, essential item. It comes down to creativity and the entrepreneurial kind of spirit and idea creation. And that to me is the most exciting part of these kinds of topics, is how can you creatively use a resource to make a difference.
And what we find is that throughout history, immigrants are the ones that are the most entrepreneurial all over the world. Yeah. And the reason why is it's not because they decide, hey, I want to run a business. It's because there's no other choice to have a life a lot of times for yourself and your children. Yeah. And so this type of entrepreneurial activity is very important in places where there's not a lot of other options. And that is an amazing story, and it does remind me of I think it was a documentary that I watched where they'll send these clothes over, but we're like way fatter here in America than they are over there. Yeah. So the double XL shirts and stuff, they got no use for them.
Yeah, exactly.
So at least they're making bags and rags and stuff now.
Yeah, and it was actually kind of cool. They also had a ton of shirts, and so what my wife showed them how to do was keep the collar intact. They were like polo style, like golf shirts, but they weren't just XXL. They were like 4X or 5X. I mean, they're massive. She showed them how to keep the collars intact and cut them down. There was so much extra material. They could make dresses for a girl and cut the shirt down so it fit boys.
Oh, wow.
And you couldn't even tell. The only way you could tell, which was they would keep the pocket in kind of on the shirt, and the pocket was like jumbo size pocket. But other than that, it fit, kind of, a 70-pound, 80-pound boy. And the collar actually didn't look wrong. It was very weird, and it gave so much extra material. They were using it for skirts and dresses for the little girls. So you're right. Let's talk about your for-profit business, how you got all these ideas. Your wife obviously is an amazing seamstress that can make, 4X shirts into skirts and shirts for boys. So how did you use that tool in your business? Yeah, so we started on eBay. In 2007, we were like a lot of people. We were caught in a housing crisis. So we had moved to California. 2005, we used a new product we'd never heard of before called a NAGAM loan. We were idiots. And we moved there for my work, and I worked full time at a charity, World Vision. And so by 2007, we were in real trouble, and we were like, okay, we got to make extra money. So our daughter was going into kindergarten. My wife, Cinnamon, had about 3 hours a day. We thought, okay, we'll try something. So we were looking for ideas, and she actually had started making doll clothes for our daughter's dolls. And the Girl Scouts troop that we were part of, all the moms were like, where did you get this? Where'd you get this stuff? And she said, well, I made it. So what we quickly discovered was Cinnamon was insanely good at this compared to everyone else. And her mom worked for a fashion designer in LA. When Cinnamon, was growing up, she learned from her mom, who was world class at this stuff. So her mom was a cutter, which is a technical role in a design studio. So we started on eBay. We started like everybody else. We were doing auctions. We got insanely good at kind of creating auctions, and they would really work. I mean, we'd start going for $30 and then $70 and $100 and $200 and $300 and $400. Her doll clothes would, the highest auction I think we've ever done is $500.50
for doll clothes.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
I mean, we're pretty good. She's pretty good at what she does. But
okay. So explain what you mean by doll, because maybe I'm thinking of something else. So like for Barbie dolls, or for like I have a 4-year-old daughter.
American Girl. American Girl is the doll that is the most commonly, kind of designed for these days. So you can go to libertyjaneclothing.com and check it out. But in 2009, we lost the house, and we were devastated. We moved back to Seattle. I took a job back at the headquarters, and Cinnamon was burned out. on sewing and selling.
Yeah.
I mean, we were making $1,000 a month on eBay, and she was sewing till midnight to make that little biz happen. And we were totally burned out. So we met Jim Cockrum through his book. His advice was simple: find a niche market and sell them digital goods. And we said, okay, we have a niche market. What is our digital good? And our digital good was obvious. It was doll clothes patterns as PDF files.
There you go.
So in September 2009, we started selling them on our own website. The first month we sold 11 copies, and it scaled from there. And then, that next year we tripled our sales, and she worked a lot differently. And in essence, not a lot less, but it was just different work. And we became publishers. And then other doll clothes pattern makers started asking us to sell their patterns too. And in 2013, we launched Pixie Fair, PIXIEFAIRE.com. It is the internet's largest doll clothes pattern marketplace. I know nobody knew there was such a category on the internet. But for those people who know about the doll clothes pattern business, they like Pixie Fair a lot. It is the go-to place. It's like the iTunes of doll clothes patterns. And we have about 70 partners that we publish for. And we have about 40 to 50,000 transactions a month.
Okay, I can't let you stop. I have to go back because you said this is the best line I've ever heard. You're the iTunes for doll clothes patterns. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
And so we have about over 1 million page views a month, 40 to 50,000 transactions. It's scaled. Yeah, it's scaled. We have about 1.8 million downloads to date. And about a catalog now of about 1,700 doll clothes patterns. And we also sell online classes, video-based classes that are all doll-related stuff, sewing-related. And we sell physical product as well, cut fabric, supplies, zippers, buttons.
So you're teaching people, I'm sorry, I want to get into the video courses that you're talking about. So these are courses that are teaching people how to use these patterns that you're selling?
Yeah, we kind of go from what we call the Design Academy, which is our entry-level course, and it shows people how to design their own clothing, doll clothes stuff. And obviously you can use our patterns as a basis of doing any of it, but it's really about the principles of design. Right. And that's our most popular course. We've had probably, 1,200 to 1,500 people take that course. And we do it a couple times a year. It's $79, and it's our kind of signature course. And then we have the Pattern Academy, which is sort of a higher level course. That's $199, and that teaches how to make your own designs. And those courses really act as a feeder program to create designers that then we have a publishing relationship on Pixie Fair. So it's almost like growing our own designer team.
That's amazing.
In a way.
So how do you acquire customers?
Pinterest was revolutionary for us. Obviously, we started on YouTube, actually. Social media is big in general, but we started on YouTube. We started by doing design contests, and our work became, and our brand became fairly well known because of that. On YouTube, I think we have 17,000 subscribers now, about 3 million video views. Facebook came along, of course, and we used it. Pinterest came along, and it really changed our business because of the traffic it generated. And all of that, and Instagram came along as well. All of that feeds into email marketing,
right.
Name acquisition. Our list right now is about 80,000 people for our doll-focused stuff, and then 10,000 people for our charity, and then another 10,000 names that are kind of on, smaller lists, sort of random stuff. So about 100,000 email addresses in our system. So
that's terrific. Yeah. And, so how often are you contacting these guys by email? How often do you email your list?
Yep. We currently do 2 newsletters a week on Tuesday, or Wednesday, and then on Friday. And every Friday we do something called Freebie Friday, which is a free pattern. And so every Friday we're giving away one free pattern. And that's our biggest sales day of the week. And it's really a key part of our model. So we used to do 3 days a week, and really there's a lot of great insight and teaching on this topic. Those are called slots. So the question is, how many slots do you have a week? Obviously, if you know how much money you make each newsletter and you can increase the number of slots, then you're just increasing your money. But the thing you watch for, of course, is opt-outs, and whether your customers will accept 3 days a week of newsletters, or even daily, or, for goodness sake, some places like American Eagle, they'll send you 3 newsletters a day, with coupons and that kind of thing. And anyway, so we do 2 days a week right now. So
that's great. That's really great. And it's all a balancing act, but the real news is that you want to build a group of folks that want to hear what you have to say. Yep. And people, so many people I've talked to that say, well, I have this list, but we don't email them because we don't want them to unsubscribe. I'm like, well, what's the point of having? Yeah, that's absolutely worthless at that point.
That's a weird mental trap to get into. Actually, when you start to scale a list, what you realize is, once you figure out how to get people to subscribe, what you realize is it's quality more than quantity. And you actually don't want to have a massive list of unresponsive people. It's better to increase your frequency and shake out your list.
Yeah.
And have responsive people that stick with you. And so anyway, it's...
And over time, what happens is that, your people will find you. Your tribe, the people that care about what you're doing will find you, and the ones that don't will go away, and that's fine. We don't want to bother folks that don't want to hear from us.
Yeah, exactly. Totally true.
But that's amazing, man. This is a great story, and I really wish that we had spoken before a couple weeks ago, as we were trying to build this whole dollar book swap out. But you gave me some things to think about how we should grow this in the future. But we do really want to give a lot of books away, but we also don't want to disrupt local economies either. What kind of suggestions, if you had some tips that you could give me about making sure that we can do good stuff without all these negative repercussions that can happen?
Well, tell me quickly your model. So you've got your store. The teachers come and donate hours, and then they can take books.
No, the way it works. Well, we have around 100,000 books at our store, and we also have a volunteer program where people can come in and they can help sort books that we're going to be giving away, and in exchange for that, they can get $30 in store credit. Now, as part of our thing, we want to give away 1 million books a year. And it's sort of a marketing thing, but for every book that we sell, we want to give one away. So we're trying to donate a lot of books. And what happens right now is that we work through a nonprofit called Literacy Not Landfills that a friend of mine runs. And so we when people come in and have donation requests, nonprofits, we fill them, and we just charge the shipping, or try to find a way to cover that as well. A lot of what we give, the vast majority of what we give away is locally.
Sure. Yeah, because then it solves your shipping challenge.
But it is a bummer because I know that there's places that we still recycle lots of good stuff that we could give away. But I mean, really great stuff. It's just if I could magically have 10 more bookstores, I'd be fine. But I don't have that yet. So we're having to recycle these great books that kids could use.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you're building your own distribution channel for the charitable activities, and I mean, that's going to be a slow process, but it's going to be meaningful. I mean, that's amazing stuff. I think the tips that I could give you are things that you're already thinking through, which is, how do you integrate your book giveaway program with local schools, local libraries, local programs, nonprofits that can be beneficial to them. Books are an interesting commodity, aren't they? I mean, they're relatively available some places and completely unavailable other places, and it really is a distribution challenge. So it seems to me like a lot of your charitable effort will actually be brain type work, strategy type work, thinking through the logistics of how to effectively place books into the hands of kids that need them in a cost-effective way. I'm working on those same challenges with our uniforms and feminine hygiene product in Lusaka, Zambia, and thinking through those same set of challenges. I guess, a few principles that would come to my mind would include working with trusted partners. And you probably already run into this. I think, in fact, when we were chatting at lunch, you had mentioned something about just the challenges of finding local trusted partners that you can work with that are going to have 100% philanthropic motives and really be clear on their mission, purpose, and documenting their outcomes so that you know what's occurring with the product that you're giving them. And that relationship piece is probably the number one issue. And then, programming that I would call is purposeful versus dumping. And, that'll look different in every niche. It'll look very different in book category than it would in clothing category. But I think the principles of it are pretty straightforward. How do you use it for good, for a 360-degree view of what good is, not just good for you, but also good for the local economy, the children, the schools, et cetera, et cetera.
And what becomes an issue is that we could, especially children's books, there are markets for children's books all over the world. The problem is that a lot of these countries, especially in the less developed world, there's all types of import restrictions. Right, there's all greasing the wheels. There's all kinds of issues that are involved. By my potential people have contacted me and say, Greg, I could take all the kids' books that you have. And I say, well, actually, you probably can't. But if you're right,
but then who's going to pay for the shipping?
But these are buyers, these are buyers of the books. But the problem is, again, that they get caught up in the they try one shipment and they get caught up with all of the importing and all of the red tape that's involved in a lot of this.
Right. Yeah, and I can only tell you what we've done as our solution to this, and maybe it's replicatable for others. I don't know, but we work with a charity. What happened for us was, in the first year of our program, we overproduced what we needed at the local school we're working with. So for the feminine hygiene product, all the girls at that school are set. They have, they've gone through the health training and all that. Well, then it was like, wow, if we're going to scale this, we need another partner, a distribution partner in Zambia. Well, we went to World Vision Zambia, which is the largest nonprofit charity in Zambia. And so they are our distribution partner. And so what that unlocked for us was their shipping system, because now we can partner with them to have our purses shipped, because it's World Vision Zambia requesting the items. And so that's a fantastic sort of partnership, which solves for us the shipping issue. So they ship from the U.S. to Zambia. And that unlocked their system for us, because we treated them as a partner on both sides. They're a partner to us in Zambia and a partner to us in the U.S. So, and they're shipping 50, 60 containers to Zambia a year. It's a massive system. So, that was our solution. Now, whether that can be replicated with other charities in a different category, I don't know. But, it's just, those are the logistical issues you have to work through. And there are people who obviously ship globally. There are people who know how to do customs work. There are people who know which countries can and can't accept, gift in kind donated product imports without duty being applied, et cetera, et cetera.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jason. I think we all learned a lot today. And you have a great vision, and we appreciate you sharing that with us.
All right, man. Thanks so much.
Awesome. One of the things I was so amazed about the conversation I had with Jason was exactly how these really small, or we say small with finger quotes, but these niche markets evolve. Who would have thought that a company that was based on just creating patterns for other people to sew clothes for dolls, how it started like that and it moved in all these other directions. It's amazing how many people that there are and how the internet is so able to bring them together to talk about something or do something very, very niche and specific. I was very, very shocked to learn how many people really do sew clothes for these dolls and for all these other things that they're doing, and that they were able to basically build something like the iTunes for patterns of clothing. I mean, that's for toys and dolls. I mean, that's just amazing to me how they're able to do that. And so no matter what, I think a real great lesson to draw from this is no matter what your niche is, no matter what you're interested in, I think a really great thing to pull from this is no matter what your passion is and no matter what niche it is that you want to pursue, there's going to be an audience. There are other people in the world that are interested in this. In fact, I mean, you guys see now, we only have to consume the news that we want. People see the world so differently because, they're only consuming the news that fits their worldview already. And it's just amazing how with all of the information that there is on the internet, we still want to find people and we still want to find things to do that are a lot like us and they're a lot like our experiences. And so that's one of the forces that pushes these types of organizations where there's so many people that are involved in these really small niches that it ends up not being all that small anymore. I mean, these guys are really changing the game and they're building a platform so that people that want to sew these patterns and create these patterns from all over the world are able to participate. And that's really amazing. So definitely check them out over at sewpowerful.org, SEWpowerful.org. It's a really great organization. And also remember, busproofworkshop.com. We have some more, we always have additional training that we're going to do there that may be just a little bit more in depth than the podcast is. And I appreciate so much you guys listening, and I'll talk to you all very soon. Thank you.
That's all for this episode of the Bustproof Business Podcast. Be sure to point your browser to busproofworkshop.com to sign up for our mailing list and to get your opportunity to enroll in one of our specialized seminars, guaranteeing you continued results in typical Bustproof fashion. Thanks again for joining us. We look forward to taking your business to the next level right here on the Bustproof Business Podcast.